Everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I haven't done a solo podcast in a while, but today I wanted to talk about something of relevancy for the new year, and it's about fear, abundance, and a story about the straight and narrow path. We've all heard this story before, or some version of somebody telling you, walk the straight and narrow path. Maybe in spirituality, maybe in self-help books, but maybe some of you don't know what the straight and narrow path is. So I wanted to share a story from an author I've been recently reading. Her name is Lillian DeWaters, and the book I was reading was called How to Have Abundance. Lillian DeWaters was considered a Christian Scientist and dove into the realm of New Thought and mysticism. But a lot of her teachings if you read any of her books, a lot of her teachings really hit home. So the story tells about a parable about fear and faith. And it goes like this. There was a king who lived in a magnificent palace on the side of a dense, dark forest. He had sent a message to the people, promising incredible riches, joy, and abundance to anyone who would come to his palace. But to get there, you had to follow a specific path through the forest called the King's Highway. A few men decided to take him up on the offer. They started out of full excitement, clutching the king's written promise. But pretty soon, as they walked, they heard rumors from people along the way. Don't be foolish. No one's ever made it. There are huge, ferocious lions blocking the path. They'll tear you apart, indicating the men to stop. The first man got scared. He listened to the warnings, turned around, and went back home. The second man pressed on a bit further, but when he started hearing the distant roars of the lions, he panicked and he abandoned the path and headed back too. The third man kept going. All he could think about was the king's promise. The king wouldn't deceive me. He's telling the truth. Even as the roars grew louder and closer, shaking him to his core, trembling in fear. But he kept walking forward, trusting that the king's word was truer than the fear he was feeling. And then he got right up close, and the lions were there, roaring fiercely in his face. He saw the truth. The lions the entire time were chained and could not reach anybody. One on each side of the path, unable to reach him. They looked terrifying, sounded deadly, but they were powerless. With a heart full of joy, he walked straight in between them, right up to the palace gates, where the king himself came out to welcome him and fulfill every promise of abundance to the man. Lillian Waters uses this story to illustrate a deep spiritual truth about walking the straight and narrow path. The lions in our path represent our fear, the fears in our mind that we create, the lack of abundance, the scarcity, the problems that seem so real and overwhelming. This is why we chain ourselves and we're not free. She says they're illusions of power, rooted in appearances. But when we walk the straight and narrow path and trust divine life, God, whatever you want to believe in, infinite intelligence, the universe, higher power, we discover that our fears are actually harmless and are all illusions created with our own mind. In her own words, we don't need to fear the lions if we have understanding of them. The understanding that life's promises are real and are available to anyone. Abundance, health, prosperity, harmony, peace, they are already ours. They are already yours. Poverty, sickness, limitation, lack, scarcity, they are the roaring lions on the straight and narrow path that you walk, that seem ready to devour us, that keep us stuck, that keep us in a place of fear, fear from trying to do something worthwhile in life. But if you keep walking in faith, keep walking the path, one step at a time, despite your fear, you'll see it wasn't that bad after all. So I really wanted to share this story because how many times have I, and maybe even you listening, have been those first two men on the story that were walking that path, decided to try something new or take a risk in your life, and you gave up and you quit. Hearing the roars of doubt, telling yourself doubtful thoughts and listening to them, actually listening to your doubtful thoughts, is just a recipe for disaster. You know, maybe you're worried about rent, maybe you're worried about bills to pay, maybe you're worried about your health, maybe you're worried about relationships and being alone for your entire life. Maybe you're worried about starting over again. Maybe you want to abandon the path, even though a part of you feels like this path is right for you. All because of fear, all because of doubt. But what if we treated every challenge we face like this story? Trusting the process, continuing to walk in faith and belief in yourself, if anything, to reach the so-called promised land of your desires. Instead of detouring from the path, instead of walking back, instead of abandoning the path, or even instead of fighting the fear head on, you just keep walking the straight and narrow path. Keep taking one step at a time. And as you walk this path, you will be challenged. So I know a lot of people for a fact a lot of people can relate to this and have that fear, have that anxiety, and have those doubtful thoughts. And from this story, the way Lillian talks about it, she says, you know, God is infinite good, and nothing can separate me from that. It's not about ignoring the lions, the fear, the doubt. It's about trusting that they're all illusions and that they're all actually chains that you're putting on yourself. until you get close enough to those fears, until you realize and embrace your fears, you'll always let doubt and fear overcome you. So I invite you to imagine your own path. What is something you can do today to step forward onto this path of fear and doubt that you see for yourself? And what is something that you truly want to do? What is something you've always wanted to do, but were too afraid or doubtful of yourself? I want you, whoever's watching or listening right now, to challenge yourself to take that step. Do one small thing today to help you walk that path. Thank you for listening. If you stayed to the end, this story really resonated with me, so I felt compelled to tell it. So if it sparked anything for you, if it resonated for you, please comment or follow wherever you are on podcasts, and keep walking that path. Walk the straight and narrow path, whatever that is for you. And maybe it's not the right path, maybe it's a path you want to test waters in, and that's okay. But once you find that path that you feel is right for you and fulfilling and you're passionate about, don't give up when you feel doubt. Don't give up when you feel fear, and keep walking that path. Stay curious, keep going. You got this, guys. Peace.